On to Asian news. China's Premier Wen Jiabao urged the EU to lift its arms embargo on Beijing, but some opposed it, citing China's human rights record and other issues. Wen's one-day talks in Brussels with senior EU figures included European Council Presidents Herman Van Rompuy and Foreign Policy Chief Catherine Ashton. The two sides spoke highly of the achievements made in the development of China-EU relations. Mr. Wen urged the EU to lift its arms embargo on China, expressing his regrets as the solution has been elusive over the past 10 years. The arms embargo limits high technology sales to China, which could have a dual military use, forced China to invest more in its own military research and developments. The ban was imposed after Tiananmen Square massacre in 1989. Although France and Italy has called for a lifting of the ban, but other EU countries expressed their concerns despite the benefits it may bring from bilateral trade. The United States especially opposed the idea as it points to the human rights issues in China and that it may upset the delicate balance of relations between China and Taiwan. Mr. Wen was also disappointed that the EU is still yet to recognize China's market economy status, which is preventing Brussels from lifting its tariffs on Chinese goods. Analysis suggests the talks were consolidating relations rather than taking big decisions. Any major decisions or resolutions may only come after China's leadership change. Japan will be demanding compensation from China for damages to its diplomatic missions there after attacks from protesters over the disputed islands. Japan Chief Cabinet Secretary Osamu Fujimura said the Japanese government will seek compensation from China regarding to damages of their embassies and consulates, stating that it was an issue between the two governments. And as for damages to property owned by Japanese businesses in China, they should be handled under China's domestic law. Mr. Fujimura also said the Japanese Prime Minister is planning to send a special envoy to China as a part of efforts to resolve the issue cool-headedly through various diplomatic routes. In response to the request, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Hong Lei said the relevant cases would be handled appropriately. Meanwhile, China has apologized to the US over the incidents involving protesters attacking US Ambassador Gary Lok's car in Beijing on Tuesday. Indian government supermarkets reforms have led to fierce resistance of the trade unions and opposition parties, in which they launched a nationwide strike last week. The Indian government said in order to revive the economy and avoid a sovereign debt downgrade, they needed to promote retail sector reforms. According to the proposal, Indian governments plan to allow foreign supermarkets starting their businesses in India. Opposition parties and trade unions protested against the governments to allow foreign direct investments in multi-brand retail. Small shops also feared they will be put out of business. Last Thursday's nationwide strike shut down schools, businesses and public transport in many cities. Protesters said they liked the Prime Minister's photos and stamped on the remains. The Indian government has also announced a 14% increase in diesel prices, which led to more criticisms. According to BBC, the Confederations of All India Traders said multinational corporations would destroy the country's economic and social grassroots organisations and will have negative impacts on businesses, transport, agriculture and other retails. Now moving on to sports news. New Zealand Olympic silver medal sailor Burling will add weight to South Korea's America's Cup's ambitions.
He will skipper their AC-45 wing sail catamaran in the next round of the America's Cup World Series in San Francisco from October the 2nd to the 7th. Team South Korea has shown great promise in the America's Cup World Series. In the previous round they beat Artemis Racing Team, Emirates Team New Zealand and Oracle Racing Coots. It is hoped that Burling can take them to the next level and put together a number of wins. Peter Burling is a bright future star, with some suggesting he has the ability to be the next Russell Coots. In 2008, Peter Burling became one of the youngest sailors to represent New Zealand at the Olympic Games, at only 17 years old. After the Olympics, Burling suggested he would be interested in the America's Cup or Volvo Ocean racing. But he has not discounted another Olympics campaign in Rio 2016.
The Crusaders are strengthening their squad by adding a fourth coach to their coaching panel and have announced a new coaching structure for the 2013 season.
The new coaching team now consists of a head coach, assistant defence coach, assistant forwards coach and team attack coach. The team attack coach position is yet to be filled and will be advertised externally this week. Crusaders CEO Hamish Ziyech said the restructure was due to the result of the review of the 2012 season. Issues and opportunities that were raised have been taken on board. Todd Blackadder will remain as head coach and said the restructure would improve their chances of winning the title next season. He was happy with the performance this season, but he believed everyone could do better.
Samir Nasri received an injury while playing for Manchester City against Real Madrid in the Champions League defeat at Bernabeu.
Manchester City is still waiting for the final medical report on the French international after he suffered a suspected hamstring tear when going down to Real Madrid in the final minutes. Nasri may have to miss up to 4 weeks if the injury is serious. When Nasri felt the twinge during the game, he immediately signalled the coach that he needed to come off. This may have spared him more extensive damage. Nasri will miss the chance to play his former club Arsenal, where he spent 3 seasons.
Now moving on to Happy Diner, introducing and reviewing favourite restaurants in Auckland.
The first dish we're going to introduce today is sake mussels. First pour oil into the wok, stir-fry garlic and ginger strips until fragrant. Put in fresh mussels and sake and stir in high heat. Then add onion, leek, fish stock, salt and more sake. Cover with lid and simmer for 2 to 3 minutes. Lastly, decorate it with dried fish and lemon. Unlike grape wine, traditional Japanese sake is enriched with the aroma of rice. How would New Zealand mussels taste with the twist of this elegant oriental element?
I was a bit scared to try this dish because I saw the chef poured in quite a lot of sake wine with the mussels, but surprisingly the mussels weren't overpowered by the wine at all, but it was juicy with a hint of sweetness.
I have been cooking Japanese cuisine for a long time, so I like to use Japanese cooking method to cook Japanese ingredients, or vice versa. So it's kind of like mix-up, fusion, and I also like to add in my own interpretation of cooking in the dishes.
Speaking of tapas, how can we forget barbecues? Japanese barbecue tiger shrimps and scampi, brushed with their special marinade sauce, sweet and rich. What's better than this to go with some good wine?
Scampi. We usually eat scampi raw as sashimi, but I like to use it for barbecue, sort of like Japanese yakitori.
What we have just had was barbecue scampi. The meat is very tender, and because it was added with a special homemade sauce, the flavor of the fresh meat is rather strong with a very distinctive barbecue aroma.
Other than all sorts of wine and alcohol, there are also a variety of Taiwanese milk tea and snow bubbles for you to choose from.
Now moving on to Happy Diner.